This is a formal town council meeting and will be held using the agenda as published. Members of the public will be given the opportunity to speak during public open sessions, but will not be permitted to speak at other times. And when you're not speaking, will you please mute your microphone to help eliminate background noise? Thank you very much, everybody. So this is our annual statutory meeting, slightly different format to our normal meetings. So the first item on the agenda is the election of a mayor for the year 2021 to 2022. Do I have any nominations, please? Councillor Fage.
Nominate Councillor Madeline Russell.
Is there a seconder for that nomination? Thank you, Councillor North. Are there any other nominations, please? No. Okay. I'm not sure whether I should take a vote or not, but I probably ought to see what support I've got within the council. So all those in favour of me becoming mayor, please show. That's 13 of us. Thank you very much, colleagues. I do mean thank you. This is a third term of office for me and I much appreciate it given the difficulties of the previous 2 years, and I hope we can have a more normal year this year. I have the declaration here, which I will now sign in public as I'm required to do. And it says, I, Madeline Ann Russell, having been elected to the office of Town Mayor, declare that I take that office upon myself and will duly and faithfully fulfil the duties of it according to the best of my judgment and ability. So I'm now going to sign that. And I will send that to the town clerk tomorrow. So the next item on the agenda is the election of the Deputy Town Mayor. Nominations for the Deputy Town Mayor, please. From the chair, I would like to nominate Councillor Grant Fage to serve as Deputy for a second term. He's been a very good support to me as Mayor. Do I have a seconder for that nomination, please? Thank you very much. So are there any other nominations for Deputy Mayor? No. So all those in favour of Councillor Fage becoming Deputy Mayor, please show. That's 13 again. So congratulations, Councillor Fage. Could you please now read your declaration and sign it in front of the meeting, please?
Yes, thank you. And thank you everybody for your support. So I, Grant Graham Fage, having been elected to the office of Deputy Town Mayor, declare that I take that office upon myself and will duly and faithfully fulfil the duties of it according to the best of my judgment and ability. And I'll sign that now as well.
Thank you very much. The next item is our standing committees. So we have with the agenda a list of the current membership or the membership for 2020-2021. May I please have any nominations or any requests for councillors to change committees in any way or to resign from committees? Councillor Pullinger.
Yeah, I'd like to join Public Lands and Open Spaces.
Thank you very much. Are there any other changes that people would like to make? Now, that would take us to 11, but I do understand that Councillor Leslie Fage is wanting to stand down from that committee. So I think if Councillor Pullinger joins, we'll be fine with that. If there are no other changes, can I move on,
Councillor
please?
Strawn.
Oh, sorry, Councillor Strawn.
Yes, I'd quite like to come on to finance and general purposes, please, if that's acceptable.
Yes, there are 2 spaces on that. Is everybody happy with that? Yes. Thank you very much. Any other changes that people want to make? Thank you very much. Now, normally in the council chamber, at this point, each committee would stand and elect their chairman and vice chairman so that the business of those committees can continue without a break. What we thought about as a possibility was for those who are not on a committee to turn their video off briefly so that we can see who's on which committee. So if councillors are happy to do that, it would certainly make life a little bit easier. So can I start please with public land and open spaces? So could those who aren't on public land and open spaces please turn off their video? Now, do I have nominations for the chairman of public land and open spaces, please? Councillor Thomas.
Could I nominate Councillor Frank Foster, please, as for chair?
Do I have a seconder for that, please? Thank you very much. All those in favour of Councillor Foster becoming chair? That's fine, that's unanimous, thank you. And now nominations for vice chair, please. Councillor Foster.
You need to unmute.
Councillor.
Beg your pardon. I'd like to nominate Councillor Colin Thomas.
Do I have a seconder for that, please?
Yes, but has Madeline frozen?
Yep.
Oh dear. She's back.
Yeah,
You froze there for a moment, Madam Chair.
I'm sorry. I think that was all right from what the signals I saw. So Councillor Thomas is vice chairman. Can I move on please to town centre management? And can those now who are on town centre management have their video on, and anybody else turn it off, please? Thank you very much. So do I have any nominations for the chairman of town centre management, please? Councillor Fage.
Nominate Councillor Mark Knight.
Do I have a seconder for that, please? Thank you. So all those in favour of Councillor Mark Knight becoming chairman of TCM, please show. That's fine, thank you very much. Nominations, please, for vice chairman of TCM. Councillor Knight.
I'd like to nominate Councillor Grant Fage, please.
Do I have a seconder for that? Thank you very much. All those in favour of Councillor Grant Fage becoming vice chairman, please show. Thank you, that's a majority. I'm now on to finance and general purposes. So if you're on F&GP, could you please have your video on? If not, could you turn it off momentarily, please? Thank you very much. So nominations, please, for the chairman of F&GP. Councillor North.
Yes, I nominate Councillor Pullinger.
Thank you. Do I have a seconder for that? Thank you very much. All those in favour of Councillor Pullinger becoming chairman of F&GP, please show. That's a majority. Thank you very much. So Councillor Pullinger to become chair. I'm now moving on to vice chairman of F&GP. Could I have nominations, please, for vice chairman? Councillor Pullinger.
I nominate Councillor Michael North.
Seconder, please, for that. Thank you. All those in favour of Councillor Michael North becoming vice chairman, please show. Thank you. That's a majority. Sorry, I'm making a note of all this to make sure that we get it right. And then personnel committee. So could those who are on personnel committee make sure their video is on, and everybody else turn it off for a moment, please. So nominations, please, for Chairman of Personnel. Councillor Ramsey. Councillor Ramsey, you're on mute.
Councillor Woodhead, please.
A seconder for Councillor Woodhead, please. Thank you. All those in favour of Councillor Woodhead being Chairman of Personnel, please show. That's fine. Thank you very much. That goes through. Nominations, please, for Vice Chairman of Personnel.
Can I nominate Councillor Hazel Ramsey, please, as Vice Chair?
Seconder, please, for that. Thank you. All those in favour of Councillor Ramsey becoming Vice Chairman, please show. Okay, that's gone through as well. And then we come to Appeals Committee. Could I have nominations? Oh, please, sorry, could Appeals Committee have their video on and others off, please, for a moment? Nominations, please, and I can see Councillor Bond has got his hand up. Councillor Bond.
I'd like to nominate Councillor Kevin Brown as Chairman.
Are you happy with that, Councillor Brown? Thank you. A seconder, please, for that. Thank you. All those in favour of Councillor Brown being Chairman of the Appeals Committee? I'm not a member. Who else is? Come on. Okay, that's a majority. Thank you very much. And now I need nominations for Vice Chairman of Personnel, please.
Appeals.
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 Sorry. Yes, you're quite right. I haven't moved on. Vice Chairman of Appeals, Councillor Fage.
Nominate Councillor Ian Bond.
Seconder, please. Thank you. All those in favour of Councillor Bond being Vice Chairman of the Appeals Committee? Okay. I think that's gone through. We only have, I think, at the moment, 4 members of appeals. Can I ask Councillor Leslie Fage whether you are remaining on appeals, please, Councillor Leslie Fage?
No, is it necessary that I do?
It would be helpful so that we've got 5 on that committee, Councillor Fage.
Yes, in that case, yes.
Thank you very much. Okay, I think we've now got all of the standing committees sorted. So thank you very much, everybody. And can we all please put our videos back on so that we can see one another? And I'm moving on to the Biggleswade Joint Committee to elect 4 members. And we do need, it doesn't say on the agenda, but we do need substitutes. So the 4 members last year were Councillor North, Councillor Knight, Councillor Ramsey and myself, and the 2 substitutes were Councillor Pullinger and Councillor Alban. Now, do any of those people wish to stand down from Joint Committee? Okay, so do I have any nominations for anybody else to join or for those people to join? I need nominations. Councillor Fage.
Suppose we stick with the same 4 people.
Thank you.
They were.
May I have a seconder for that, please? Thank you. All those in favour of those 4 councillors, North, Knight, Ramsey and Russell, being members of the Joint Committee, please show. Okay, that's a majority. Thank you very much. And then we need the 2 substitutes. So can I have a proposal for the substitutes, please? Councillor Fage.
Propose we keep the same 2 if they're happy to, Councillor Pullinger and Alban.
Are both those councillors happy to continue? Yeah, thank you. Seconder for that, please. Thank you. Those in favour of Councillor Pullinger and Councillor Alban being the substitutes, please show. Yeah, that's a majority. Thank you very much. So we're now on to appointment of representatives to outside bodies. And the first one is the Bedfordshire Association of Town and Parish Councils. This is for 3 members to attend the AGM, to vote at the AGM on any motions that come forward. Last year, she says, looking quickly, we had councillors Knight, Thomas and Woodhead. Do those councillors wish to continue? Councillor Woodhead?
I'm happy to withdraw. So if we need another person, then that's fine by me. So.
Okay, do we have a nomination for a third person? Councillor Fage?
Nominate Councillor Ramsey.
Thank you.
Do I have a seconder for that? Thank you. So I'm assuming Councillor Knight and Councillor Thomas are happy to go forward. So the proposal is for Councillors Knight, Thomas and Ramsey to be our representatives at the BATPC AGM. All those in favour, please? Thank you, that's a majority. Biggleswade Twinning Committee, can I have nominations, please? It was Councillor Woodhead last year with Councillor Alban as a substitute. Nominations, please. Councillor Knight.
I'd like to nominate Councillor Woodhead with Councillor Albone as a substitute, please.
Seconder for that, please. Thank you very much. All those in favour, please show. Thank you. So that's Councillor Woodhead with Councillor Alban as a substitute. A proxy voter at the Fenreeves meetings. Last year it was Councillor Bond with Councillor North as a substitute. May I have nominations, please? Councillor Knight.
I'd like to nominate Councillor Bond and Councillor North as a substitute, please.
Seconder, please. Thank you. All those in favour of Councillor Bond being our proxy voter and Councillor North as substitute? Thank you very much. The Biggleswade Greenwheel Development Group. Last year we had Councillors Bond and Pullinger as the members with Councillor Mark Foster as a substitute. Can I have nominations, please? Councillor Knight.
Okay, can I nominate Councillor Bond and Pullinger with Councillor Mark Foster as a substitute, please?
Seconded, please. Thank you. All those in favour, please. Yeah, that's a majority. Thank you. Police Liaison Officer. This has been Councillor Strawn with Councillor Fage, Leslie Fage as a substitute. But I think Councillor Fage wishes to step down from that. Is
Yes,
that right?
please.
Yes.
Yes.
Okay.
I'd like to nominate Councillor Knight if he's prepared to take it.
Thank you.
To take substitute, Councillor Knight.
Thank you. Yep.
So I don't yet have a full nomination. Councillor Pullinger, are you going to nominate?
I'll propose Councillor Strawn for the representative.
Thank you. And seconders for that then, Councillor Strawn and Councillor Knight. Thank you. And all those in favour of Councillor Strawn and Councillor Knight? Thank you very much. Sir John Cotton Educational Foundation, I did have a conversation with the clerk earlier today about this, and he is content that we nominate 2 members. I'm already a member through another route, and I have explained to the clerk that there hasn't been a meeting, but the trustees of the foundation are very happy to have 2 members from the town council because they no longer have a member nominated by Central Bedfordshire Council. So last year we didn't actually appoint anybody, but Councillor Woodhead and Councillor North indicated that they would like to be members of the John Cotton Educational Foundation. So may I, from the chair, please, nominate Councillor Woodhead and Councillor North. Do I have a seconder for that, please? Thank you. Several hands went up. All those in favour of Councillor Woodhead and Councillor North being members of John Cotton? Thank you very much. That's through. And the final one is the Wind Farm Grant Panel. And last year it was Councillor North and Councillor Ramsey. Can I have nominations, please? Councillor Knight.
Can I nominate Councillors North and Ramsey, please?
Thank you. Seconder. Thank you. All those in favour of Councillor North and Councillor Ramsey for the Wind Farm Grant Panel, please. Thank you. That's a majority. Okay, I think we've got through appointment of representatives, and I'm sorry to be shuffling papers, but I do need to just sort myself out. Okay, so back to the agenda. Apologies for absence. I think all our councillors are here, so there aren't any apologies. Any declarations of interest in any of the items on the agenda, please? Councillor Brown first, please.
Items 14H, 14I and 14L, non-pecuniary interest.
14H, 14I and 14L.
Yes, non-pecuniary.
Thank you. Councillor Strawn, you were indicating.
Yes, I was. Non-pecuniary 15B.
15B, non-pecuniary. Okay, anybody else wish to declare an interest? Thank you very much. Town Mayor's announcements. I just have one announcement. After our recent meeting when we discussed the neighbourhood plan, the neighbourhood plan survey has now closed and we're pleased to have received 560 responses. The council would like to thank Shirley Leggett from the Biggleswade Community Newsletter and Biggleswade Good Neighbours for their help in encouraging responses, and also to thank Gemma McLean and Cliff Andrews of BRCC for producing and managing the survey. They're now going to be analysing the results and we look forward to receiving those results in due course. So thank you very much for all the help in carrying out that survey. Public open session. So I haven't even looked yet to see what we've got. Yes, we've got 2 attendees. So a chance for those attendees to ask any questions they wish on any item on the agenda. If you would like to speak, could you please use your electronic hand? I'm not getting any indication, so I'm going to move on. Minutes and recommendations of meetings. We don't have the minutes yet of the last meeting, for which I apologise, so therefore we can't do matters arising. I should also have apologised for the fact that the mayoral chain is not available, which would normally have been donned at the right point at the beginning of the meeting. It's still being sorted out. It needs some repair and some changes to it, and it's still with the firm who are doing those changes. They've been a bit slow, but I suspect that we're not the only council who's thought of doing that while there's not a lot of civic events going on. So hopefully in due course, the chain will come back to the town council in a glorious new form. So I'm moving on to planning applications. And the first one is 15 Eagle Farm Road, part 2-storey and single-storey rear extension. Any comments, please, colleagues? Councillor Alban.
Yeah, I've got no objection to this, but it's but the work is fairly well progressed already. So I don't know whether there's something going wrong in the process in that we haven't considered it before the work started, or the work started prematurely. So I wonder if it could be fed back to central beds that that's happening.
Well, we did look at it on a previous council agenda, but I think even then the work was well underway.
Yep.
Yeah. Okay, so the proposal is no objection. Are people happy with that? And to feedback, can you please show if you're happy with no objection?
No objection, subject to neighbours, because, sorry, Mayor, because the extension, the amendment is actually very close to the neighbour's property, so it is subject to neighbours.
Thank you very much, Councillor Brown. So all those in favour of no objection subject to neighbours, but telling Central Bedfordshire that the work was started long before we had the planning application. Thank you, that's gone through. And then the next one is 14 Saffron Road. Demolition of conservatory and single storey to the rear, new single storey rear extension. Comments, please, colleagues.
None subject to neighbours.
Are we all happy with subject to neighbours? Yes, thank you. 29 The Balk, single storey side extension. Comments, please.
Move no objection subject to neighbours.
Thank you. Are we all happy? Yes. 20 Fennel Drive. Yes.
No objection subject to neighbours.
Okay. Are we all happy? Please signal.
Sorry.
If you're not. Sorry, Councillor Strawn, you wanted to come in.
I'm just concerned that there may be a lot of parking there. Having looked at the plans, it didn't seem particularly clear on that. So I do have concerns over the lot of parking in that area because there appears to be a lack of off-street parking. So I think we should actually be raising that point if we have no objection in principle, subject to neighbours and subject to there being no loss of parking.
Are colleagues happy with that addition? Yes. Thank you very much. 4 Handel Way, garage conversion and rear extension. Colleagues. Comments?
Yes.
Councillor Leslie Fage, sorry.
So the loss of garage obviously means lack of car parking space. There are 2 spaces there without the garage. However, they want to move one of the spaces and it could be very much on the corner. And I believe if it isn't a small car, it would be a potential hazard for people entering their own car parks behind. That is clear if you look at the plans. It is in their boundaries, but moving on, if they sell that property and there's not a small car and someone chooses to park a van there because they have the right, it could make a hazard coming in and out of there and a turning circle. So for that alone, I'd like to object.
So are you proposing to object on those grounds, Councillor?
Yes, on the car parking. And I'd also like to query that this property was built in 2018 and already there are major changes being moved to it. And I know on previous estates, this hasn't been allowed by the builders. And I'm just making sure that King's Reach has no covenant on that they have no requests that the outsides must remain the same for 5 years, as Saxon Gate and Devon Drive weren't allowed to change their outward appearance for 5 years.
So we want to query that. You're saying we should object on the grounds of the parking arrangements, particularly the space on the corner.
Yes.
And to check whether there are any covenants about changes in the first 5 years. That's what we're proposing.
Yes, please.
Do we have a seconder for that, please?
Can I make a comment first?
Yeah, well, I need a seconder first, but then if you make your comment, yes, I've got a seconder now. Thank you. Councillor Brown.
I, like Councillor Fage, had concerns, and I noted that this is the second time they've produced photographs, and if you actually look from the window, they produce photographs to show that wherever the cars are, they're always fitting them in. Even if they bring the garage forward, it's in line with the back of the house. They're clearly not using the garage. And I think it would be down to the neighbours to complain whether they're obstructing their parking. But I see not a major fault in what they're proposing, except for, as Councillor Fage has said, should they be doing that within two years? I don't know. But I would put that to the builders and to the neighbours.
Thank you. Councillor Strawn.
Thank you, Madam Chairman. If I recollect it, the planning statement issued indicated that there are no objections on the parking side from looking at it, but I'm quite happy to go with it. But they did actually seem to indicate that there were no objections on the grounds of the parking.
When you say the statement, is that the planner's statement?
I think that was the planner's statement from memory.
Okay. Well, we have a proposal on the table to object because of the arrangements for car parking, particularly the space on the corner, and to ask Central Beds to check whether there are any covenants about development within the first few years. Can I have a show of hands, please, of those in favour of that proposal? That's 7 of us. Those against, please. That's 4. So that proposal goes through. The next one is 3 Eagle Farm Road, proposed single-storey rear and side extension and various other changes. Any comments, please? Councillor Alban.
I would move no objection, but the same comments apply to this one in Eagle Farm Road as the last one in Eagle Farm Road, in that the work has already started. And while I'm speaking, did we cover item 14D, or was that missed?
What, Fennell Drive?
Yeah, did we do that?
Yeah, we did. No objection, subject to neighbours, and there being no loss of parking, I think was the decision. Yeah.
Okay, sorry, my confusion. I thought that was handled away.
Okay, thank you. Councillor Grantfage.
Yeah, I'd second no objection. Perhaps we could just stress the subject to neighbours, just stressing the neighbours, because this is quite a big extension on the back of their house, and just want to make sure that the neighbours are fully consulted. But yeah, I can't see the initial problem.
Okay, so all those in favour of no objections subject to neighbours, but stressing the neighbours' involvement, please show. Thank you. That's through. Item G, 11 Hitchin Street, change of use from A1 to A5 takeaway. Comments, please. Councillor Woodhead and then Councillor Brown.
Yeah, I mean, I don't have a problem with it sort of in principle. My concern is really around parking and sort of vehicle access, because there already are a few other takeaways along that street. It's just how much that's been taken into consideration in terms of you know, that end of town. I mean, it's not residential in that sense, so it shouldn't be a problem. But just putting more vehicles, I think, obviously on the street, and just increasing that busyness or idling perhaps. And it's just, if we could raise that perhaps as a concern, you know, has been thought of as a broader issue for the town centre and takeaways, really.
Thank you. I've got Councillor Brown and then Councillor Frank Foster. Councillor Brown.
Can I firstly point out there are a few residents on the top row of those houses, but I take in principle Councillor Woodhead's opinion that it wouldn't really make any difference, another restaurant along there. But there is a memo attached with the documentation, and in the memo it has concern for the residents within the area, in that it says the plans are not, in the exact words, comprehensive and robust. And just based on that memo alone, I think it would be wrong not to object to this one. That's my feeling on that.
Councillor Woodhead, was yours a formal proposal or a comment?
It was a comment. Yeah.
Okay. So can I take it that Councillor Brown, you're proposing that we should object because of the effect on the residents in that part of the street?
I am, yes, thank you.
Okay. Can I have a seconder for that? And then I'll go to Councillor Foster. Thank you. I've got a seconder. Councillor Foster and then Councillor Strawn.
I just wanted to make the point that there is a small car park in not that far away, and I don't really see why the parking should be an issue for an additional takeaway there. We do need to transform the way our town centre operates, and takeaways are one of the things that do work in the town centre. So I think we should try and be positive if we can.
Okay, thank you. Councillor Strawn and then Councillor Mark Foster, and back to Councillor Brown.
Effectively, just following on Councillor Brown's points, I noted the fact that there was concern about neighbours and the nuisance element that could come from the nature of the takeaway. So that's why I was happy to support Councillor Brown's proposal.
Thank you. Councillor Mark Foster.
Yeah, I'm minded to do the same. One of my concerns really is about the, how can I put it, the way that the application has been presented and the sort of the content. Is it to scale? Does it meet everything that's required? And to be honest with you, it doesn't fill me with a great deal of confidence. It may well meet the planning requirements, but in terms of the way it looks, we clearly need to be very careful about this one. It just doesn't. I'm trying to be careful with the way I'm wording this, but it's not the most professionally presented application for planning that I've seen in the world.
Okay, thank you. Councillor Brown, you wanted to come back?
Yeah, just want to clarify, it's not about the parking at all. It's about the waste. It's about how they see the extractor funds. It isn't a robust plan. There are concerns that have been raised by council itself, and they're even asking about the removal of the waste. Will council pay for that? Suggesting that they haven't thought it through. So I think they need to come back with a better plan. So I'm strongly objecting to this one. Okay,
so the proposal is to object, and we have now 3 reasons for objection. Councillor Brown says not to take the vehicle access, but 3 objections on the grounds of waste, on extraction fans, and on Councillor Foster's point of the application not being professionally presented. Is that fair, Councillor Brown? Are you happy with that? Thank you. So all those in favour of objecting on those 3 points, waste, extraction, and a poorly presented application. Thank you. Okay, so that's gone through. 14 Mulberry Close, 2-storey front extension. Comments, please, colleagues.
None, subject to neighbours.
Are we happy with that? Subject to neighbours. Thank you. Sorry, I didn't see you, Councillor Strawn.
Sorry, I was just concerned over the parking element there and the immediate neighbours of the next planning application. So it looks to be a joint one, but certainly there appears there's going to be a lot of parking, certainly with the adjoining property. I'm not so certain on this one, but it needs to be subject to neighbours, but it also needs to be subject to their remaining adequate parking off-road.
So are we happy to take these 2 together and say that we don't object, but it's subject to neighbours and subject to adequate off-road parking? Are we happy with that, colleagues? Yes, thank you very much. So I'm going on then to 8 Tate Drive, 1-storey side extension and garage conversion again. Comments, please. Councillor Fage.
Okay, this is again clearly the loss of, as far as I can tell, probably 2 parking spaces in an area of town where we know that parking is an issue due to the tight nature of the roads and there being insufficient parking in the first place. So I'd like to propose that we object to this on the grounds of the loss of 2 parking spaces.
Seconder for that, please. Thank you. All those in favour of objecting on those grounds, loss of 2 parking spaces and parking being an issue in the area? Those against, please. Anybody against? Thank you. So that goes through on the basis of loss of 2 spaces. 2 Chestnut Avenue, 1-storey rear extension.
None, subject to neighbours.
Happy with that, colleagues? Yeah, okay. And then the final one is Ivor Valley School, Hitchmead Road, installation of 3 temporary modular classrooms on site for a period of 5 years. Do I have any comments, please? May I make a comment from the chair before we go further? We shouldn't, I don't think, have any objection to this, but I think there should be 2 comments made, that it's subject to sufficient staff parking on site, because there have been problems already with staff parking on the grass verge in Stratton Way. And also that there should be unfettered access to for the 3 bungalows which are on the approach to Hitchmead School beyond the turning to Stratton Way. There are 3 old people's bungalows, and there have been issues that residents have got in touch with me over about being able to access those bungalows to take the elderly residents to medical appointments or to social events or whatever. So if I might propose from the chair that we don't object, but sufficient to staff parking on site and to unfettered access for the 3 bungalows on the approach to the school. Do I have a seconder for my proposal first, please? Thank you. Councillor Strawn, I'm sorry you wanted to come in.
Yes, I've no difficulty with the basic proposals there, and quite clearly the school needs it, but I am concerned at the way schools consistently come along with effectively porter cabins for these extensions of the size of the school, rather than plans for permanent increase in size, because we could have the same application again in another 5 years' time. And I would, perhaps we could make the observation that if this is really needed, perhaps they could look at submitting a full planning application for permanent buildings rather than temporary structures. It's just an observation, but we consistently have these type of applications from schools locally, and I don't think it's good to just be going down this temporary basis. If they do need the extra places, yes, support them. Short term it works, but longer term I'd hope they would actually put forward a permanent application for permanent buildings.
I think that's a very valid comment. I'm not involved with schools in the same way, but I think when we finally get the proposals for Biggleswade for the move to 2-tier, we might find out what's going to happen with schools, and we've also got the £10 million from the Housing Infrastructure Fund to be spent on secondary accommodation. So I suspect we might get something more permanent in the medium term, if not the short term. Okay, so the proposal is to not object, but to make those 2 comments about staff parking and unfettered access. All those in favour, please, of that proposal? Yeah, that's fine. That's gone through. Thank you, colleagues.
Excuse me, Chair.
Sorry.
I can understand the problem that they're having with access to with the bungalows. Would it just not be possible? I know it won't be done just like that, but to have some signage to put up to say that the parking is for residents' use only.
Well, the problem there is that it's actually within the school's lease, is my understanding. It's not highways land.
Ah, okay. Thank you.
The school has put down a yellow box and objects if anybody parks in front of the bungalows to collect somebody or take somebody home. That's the problem I'm referring to. And I think that the planners will understand that.
Right, thank you.
Thanks. Okay, I'm moving on to items for consideration. And the first one is the local plan main modifications consultation, and circulated with the agenda is a proposal for a response. So may I have any comments, please, from colleagues? Councillor Pullinger.
Yeah, so I'd just like to comment. I think it's a very thorough and well put together response, and I'd like to thank you, Councillor Russell, for the effort you put into working on that based on the comments that members have made previously. And I'd like to propose that we submit that as our response.
Thank you very much, Councillor Pullinger. Is there a seconder for that proposal, please? Thank you, Councillor Foster. Does anybody wish to make any comments? Are there any things that anybody feels have been missed or anything? No, okay. So we have the proposal to submit that as our response. All those in favour, please show. Thank you very much. That's unanimous. Thank you. I'm moving on to item B, which is speed watch signs. The request from the Community Speed Watch Group. Comments, please, Councillor Knight. Oh, sorry. Can I just ask, does the clerk wish to come in on that, please?
Just a point of clarity, Madam Mayor. The figures quoted in regard to cost are £56, but they are £56.44 each. There are 5 signs. So the total cost is £282 plus VAT.
Okay, thank you for that clarification. Councillor Knight.
Thank you. Can I comment on this then? So I understand and agree that speeding is definitely an issue in areas of our town, but really I'm not convinced that fixed signage at the town's boundary would be the most effective way of dealing with that. I would prefer to see an investment in vehicle-activated speed signs that display speed limit reminders if vehicles are travelling too quickly in areas such as Potton Road, where we know speeding is a major issue. I'd therefore like to propose that we decline this request, but perhaps ask the appropriate committee, is that TCM, to work with Central Beds to investigate the installation of vehicle-activated speed signs in areas where we can obtain evidence or community feedback that we need to take more targeted action, please.
Okay, so that the proposal is to decline, but to work with Central Beds to look at vehicle activated signs in appropriate places. Do I have a seconder for that, please? Thank you. Comments, please, colleagues. Does anybody wish to speak? Councillor Alban.
Yeah, I agree with the point that we need more like activated speed signs, as Councillor Knight suggested, but that could be some way off. And I think this is a small sum, and I think we should go, support it and fund it. It's a reminder. It won't be as effective as an activated sign, but it's something, and it's something for now. Where I imagine that getting anything moving to put activated signs in is going to take considerable time.
Thank you. Councillor, I think Councillor Strong was first, and then Councillor Mark Foster.
No, Councillor Foster was before me.
Thank you, Councillor Strong. Councillor Mark Foster, sorry.
Okay, I'm of the same view as Councillor Knight on this one. I'm not too keen on additional, not necessarily unnecessary signage, but over signage. I think we should be focusing on the dealing with the real issue, that is the actual speed element. But what we should do is actually invite members of the Speed Watch to, if it's TCM that's dealing with this, that we invite them to the committee to help them contribute to reducing speed within the town. And I guess we sort of got an understanding of what's being tried here. So we need to be very clear here. It's not about us not supporting the reduction in speed. It isn't about that. It's about where unnecessary signage or signage that's not going to add value and additional clutter. We're against that to some extent. So, Councillor Knight, if you're as chair of the TCM, perhaps you take that forward and invite the members of the Speed Watch to your committee.
Be happy to.
Okay. Councillor Strong then, and then Councillor Fage.
Thank you. I've declared a non-pecuniary interest because I represent the council at the Biggleswade Community Safety Group, of which Speed Watch is one of the parts there. I fully understand the needs for the type of signs being described, and I fully support that. But I think there may be a more practical reason for this request being made at this time. My gut reaction would be perhaps it would be better to defer this to the Town Centre Management Committee to actually look for them to see the Speed Watch people and understand the issues and how it can work, because the Speed Watch does have an effect, I was fortunately going at the right speed coming down Hitchin Street the other night, coming home from work, and I saw them out and about, and it has had a deterrent effect in various parts of the town. So I can see there's a lot of merit in the signs, but certainly in the long term, I fully support the idea of the type of flashing road signs being said. But I think it would be more sensible, if I may suggest, for it to be deferred to the Town Centre Management Committee, and then all the questions can be asked of the Speedwatch coordinators, and a reasoned decision made on all the facts and all the practicalities.
I don't think that's against what Councillor Knight was proposing, because it will go to Town Centre Management to discuss further. Is that all right with you, Councillor Knight?
Yeah, if we strike the words decline, because we probably can't then choose to change our mind in the committee, can we, for 6 months? So yeah, pass it to TCM, invite Speedwatch, but with a view to discussing, understanding the issues and looking at vehicle-activated speed signs as a more targeted alternative.
Thank you very much. I've got Councillor Fage and then Councillor Ramsey.
I think we should still be clear, though, in our response this time that actually, and certainly my view is we should be very careful and very thoughtful about what goes at the entrance points to our town. We only have 5, and you only get to make a first impression once. And I know I've been banging on about this for the last 2 years. More so probably, sorry, Councillor Foster, I know I've moaned about it for PLOS as well, but I think, you know, it's very important, the first impression that people get from our town when they drive into it. And I'm particularly sensitive around what could potentially be not very useful signage, just creating clutter for clutter's sake, when perhaps there's another way of getting to the root cause of what the actual problem is. So I'd be keen for Councillor Knight's proposal still to, you know, be relatively firm that we don't think signage to the entrance of the town of this kind is right at this point. But certainly happy with the sentiment that it comes to TCM to look at it in a bit more detail.
Agree with everything you said.
Okay, I think we see where we're going. Councillor Ramsey.
My concern would be that if we in any way accept this, it'll be a block on us getting them changed to these traffic activated signs. I don't want anybody at Central Beds to say, well, you've got this, can't you be getting on with that? Or you asked for this must be what you wanted. That's my only concern. I'd rather see the activated ones. And I think if we have these, the Speedwatch signs, it's going to cause confusion when we ask for something better. Thank you.
Thank you. So we have a proposal that this will be deferred to TCM, but that the council is not happy and wishes to work with Speedwatch and with CBC to look at vehicle activated signs instead. Is that a fair summary? Yes, thank you. So all those in favour of that proposal, please. I think that's unanimous. Thank you very much, colleagues. Moving on to item C, council and committee meeting dates. So we have to look at the way we're holding our meetings and how we're dealing with our business. So comments, please, councillors. Councillor Pullinger, please.
Thank you. So thank you, Mr. Tuppin, for your report. So there's a few comments I would like to make. I think when we extended the trial a few months ago now, I think the intent of members at that point would be that we would have a session to review how progress had been made and what members' feelings were around how successful or otherwise the meeting schedule had been. And unfortunately, we haven't had that opportunity as yet. I think that there have been some issues, certainly with the extended period between meetings, that we may need to address. A couple of suggestions had been made at the last review of things that we might look into, such as a potential to look at the planning applications differently or what have you. We haven't had the opportunity to do any of that yet. So I think I would not like us to adopt the proposal as a permanent solution in terms of how frequently we have meetings. I think we still need to have that review and that assessment as members. So what I would propose at this point is that we continue the trial period for about another 4 months, I think it would be. Continue to schedule the council meetings. I think it's every 4 weeks, and then have the schedule the committee meetings for every 3 months during that period. And I think say have an informal meeting of all members with the officers on the 14th of September, which is a blank date in the schedule at the moment, for us all to consider how we want to move it forward in the future, and to actually have an open conversation with a view to having a firm proposal for the council meeting on the 21st of September. One additional point just to add in terms of the specifics. So my understanding is that the meetings on the 11th of May and 13th of May, the committee meetings, can't happen due to the change in legislation. So my proposal will be that the next personnel meeting should take place on the 25th of May, and the next F&GP should take place on the 15th of June. And following on from that, I think all of the subsequent committee meetings probably need to be rescheduled to maintain that 3-month gap, because there'll be too short a gap, for example, to the next F&GP at that point.
Thank you very much. That's a detailed proposal. Do I have a seconder for it, please? Thank you very much. Does anybody else wish to speak? Councillor Strawn.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. I have no difficulty with the majority of Councillor Pullinger's proposal, but I would take issue with the advice about the meetings next week. I appreciate the timescale, but a council meeting is not an event. It is a business meeting, and I believe that we're entitled to have business meetings indoors. There may be some difficulties vis-a-vis attendance of the members of the public, but we have, I believe that we're entitled to hold council meetings. The law actually prevents us from having virtual meetings. Therefore, I would say that we actually can meet next week because we're a business meeting. If we've got a legal opinion that's quite clearly to the contrary, and we've actually had it defined by full legal advice, well, I'll bow to the legal experts. But in my mind, we are not an event. We are a business meeting, and we're therefore entitled to meet.
Mr. Truppin, did you want to come in on that, please?
Yes, thank you, Madam Mayor. Number one, I have actually discussed this with my colleague, who is now the HR coordinator, but was previously also an assistant town clerk, and is actually has a legal qualification. She is of the view that, in fact, we cannot hold meetings between the 7th and the 17th of May. I agree with one point that Councillor Straw has made, that there's very little guidance on this, but I have managed to find about in appendix sort of D or E of a circular that we were sent by ACA concerning the use of basically village halls and similar for council meetings, and they are very, very clear in their view that council meetings actually are basically not permitted between before the 17th, when we go into phase 3. And on that basis, I took the view that as that was the best advice we could see, but it seems very little coming from NAUC and so forth, and from my colleagues' advice, that to err on the side of caution, because if for any reason this was challenged, any decisions that were taken would then become invalid. And for the sake of 10 days, I honestly believe that it would be sensible for the council to take a cautious view, rather than sort of go in and find that somebody might challenge something, particularly on the personnel side later on.
Thank you, Mr. Truppin. Did you want to come back, Councillor Straw?
Yes, please. I understand the possibility of illegality, and I would defer to Mr. Truppin in that respect. But I would have we actually asked NAUC direct for their view and opinion? Because I've got reservations over it, but in view of the fact we don't want to have our decisions challenged, I think we're probably left with no choice. But would still have liked to have asked now what their advice was, because it does seem rather strange that councils can cease to exist if we can't run council meetings.
All I'd say to that is that we then had conflicting advice from other legal people when we took the decision over Prince Philip's mourning period.
Yeah.
So we're between a rock and a hard place. Mr. Tarrant, you want to come in?
The only observation I would make on behalf of Nina, who can't make the meeting this evening, is that Nina is more fully aware than I think some of us in regard to other town councils' practice, and her advice from her other colleagues within the kind of broader geographical areas, that they've taken the view that they won't be holding meetings. It may not be the right view, but it is their view. So we're trying to listen to that as well.
Okay, thank you very much. Councillor Ramsey.
I find this a little bit bizarre, and advice gets outdated almost before it's printed, but I cannot see the concern with us having a town council meeting. People are quite happy now, as I saw this morning, walking about in and out of shops with their masks on and not at all bothered, and some of them having to be reminded about spacing. I don't see why we can't have a council meeting and wearing masks. There is, if people want to, there are windows that can be opened, and I just think the advice comes in too late after things have changed. I can't see any reason now why people can't come along to a council meeting and wear a mask if they want to, and not sit right next to somebody, because there's plenty of space between the seats. I just think we should get back to normal as soon as we possibly can.
Thank you. Councillor Pullinger.
Thank you. So I think there's one other thing to consider here, and I think it's fair to say that the legalities are in dispute somewhat, but certainly from a practicalities point of view, that I believe the staff are working very hard to make sure that we've got ways of working in place and the technology in place to best make use of the facilities we've got, as well as providing an option for people to view the meeting remotely, so that if they don't want to actually contribute to the meeting as members of the public, they can still view it remotely. And to make sure that we've got all of the social distancing required in place, etc. I believe there's a trial plan for later this week, and until that's really been done and we know that that's successful, I think it would be wouldn't be right for us to commit to having meetings next week when we don't know whether those trials have been successful. So I think to give us just that little bit more time, so one more week essentially before we start having meetings face to face, I think is a pragmatic way forward.
Okay, Councillor Mark Foster.
Yeah, I'd just like to, I guess, refocus back onto the main point of this this agenda item and the meeting dates, so the frequency of the meetings. I support Councillor Pullinger's approach around having a continuing the trial. Equally, I guess a bit concerned that we haven't had this this formal review that council have had an opportunity to input into. But I think, given the circumstances and capacity, it's right that we continue the trial. But I think it's important that we do have this option for members to give feedback to the officers, so that we're very clear on where we're going. And that's not to say that the route that we're going down is incorrect, but I think we just need to make sure we review it and deal with any of the issues that might be there, might not be there, might be perceived or otherwise, so that we can just talk it through. And that's not that I'm not supporting what the officers are recommending, but I think we just need to really consider where we're at with it. There's views on do we do it every other? Is it 2 in 4 as we used to do? Is it 1 in 3 or whatever? I think it's just options there that we need to consider. But for now, let's continue where we are.
Okay, so we have a formal proposal to carry on with the meetings as shown in the order paper, and then have an informal meeting on the 14th of September for all councillors to give their opinions and try to come to a consensus on the way forward, so that we can make a formal proposal to the council on the 21st of September. And two other items: to defer personnel to the 25th of May, to defer F&GP to the 15th of June, and to say that with those two being deferred, that the committee should meet every 3 months after that. Is that right, Councillor Pullinger? You're happy with that? Okay, so all those in favour of that proposal, please. Okay, thank you. That goes through. So I'm moving on to items for information, and we've had a letter about the future of Abbotsbury.
Councillor Frank Foster has a question, sorry.
Yeah, Madam Mayor, I wonder if I could request that a new schedule be published, which includes those changes that have just been made, so that we can all be quite clear for our diaries on what we've got that we've agreed so far.
Yes, I'll do that tomorrow, latest Friday.
Thank you.
Thanks very much, Councillor Foster. So going back to Abbotsbury, a confirmation from Central Bedfordshire that Abbotsbury Older Persons Home will close, but with no date yet, because they're going to work with families to find the right solutions for all the residents before they finally close the home. Does anybody have any comments on that?
Note it.
Can we? Thank you, just note it. And then we have a letter from Alan Young of the Bedfordshire Football Association saying that they are now going to be working with Stratton Upper School and CMAT to provide a 3G pitch on Stratton's playing field. Are we happy to just note that, Councillor Foster?
Yeah, I'm happy to note it, but I think it's a positive way forward.
Yeah. Well, I think I've said before, there was a planning permission for a 3G pitch at Stratton when the planning permission was given for the Science Centre. I don't think that's still extant, but it's a very feasible proposition. And as Alan Young says in his letter, CMAT, the Overall Academy Trust, have been running these kinds of pitches at other schools. So I think that's, if you like, made the Bedfordshire Association happier to go ahead, because I think they weren't very sure about how the school would run it. So we're happy to note that, are we? Oh, Councillor Foster, did you want to speak?
Yeah, just one other point. I think it's important to know that with this facility needs to be when it's installed, or when this is the way of going down, that the school will actually then make sure that the facility is used more of the day, if you like it, so it'd be used by the school, but rather than being just a sort of a white elephant during the daytime, essentially it'd be used for the school as well as other organisations. I guess depending on where the proximity of it and where it sits on it's planned for the site, you've also got the option of the link to Ivor Valley and the sort of connection there, so there's potential there. I think it depends on the access to the site and where the pitch is planned to go. Councillor Russ, you mentioned about the fact that it's there's a planning application there. It seems to me the sort of the obvious location would be close to the Science Centre, so that there's a sort of access off of Hitchmead Road, but I'm not quite sure what the original plans were. So perhaps you can, I don't know whether you've got more detail on that or not, but it seems to me that it's the right option, although there are, it's a pity there are other things that weren't able to be considered. But
well, I think that's the issue, because they don't want to spend money on car parking and that. But the planning permission is for it to be between the Weatherly Centre and the Recreation Centre, so that the changing rooms at the Recreation Centre would be used for the 3G pitch. And of course, there's parking there in front of the school, but also there's the Weatherly Centre if there's nothing on at the Weatherly Centre. So I'm not in a position to suggest anything else at the moment now. So I think we've noted that. So there's another public open session for members of the public to say anything they wish or ask any questions about any town council business. So do either of our attendees wish to say anything? I'm not seeing any electronic hands going up. So I'm assuming that nobody wishes to speak. And we don't have any exempt items tonight. So we've now finished our business for the evening. So thank you very much, everybody, and good night to you all.
Thank you, Chair. Thank
Good
you.
night. Thank you.
Good night.
Good night, Madeline. Thank you very much.